My name is Nick Vavas. I'm setting out on a journey through the Diocese of Brooklyn and Queens. My goal? To visit 8 parishes in one day and show you why we live in a city of churches. Hello everyone, and welcome to City of Churches. I'm about to start out on a day-long journey through the Diocese of Brooklyn and Queens, and I'm inviting you to come along. My first stop is St. James Cathedral in downtown Brooklyn. My pilgrimage starts here in Windsor Terrace, a largely residential and diverse neighborhood in Brooklyn. It's bounded by Prospect Park and the Greenwood Cemetery, which is a National Historic Landmark. With its historic buildings, restaurants, bars, and shops, as well as close access to the Brooklyn Museum, the Brooklyn Botanical Garden, and the Central Library, Windsor Terrace is home to a diverse group of Irish, Italian, and Latino families. To get to St. James, I'll be taking the F train. It's a relatively short ride, about 15 minutes to J Street Borough Hall, and from there, just a 5-minute walk to the church. I can't believe I got a seat. It's not too cozy, but it beats standing. Now, the F train runs all the way from Jamaica, Queens to Coney Island here in Brooklyn. The F train can trace its origin back to 1875 and the original Clover Line, which ran from the Greenwood Cemetery to Coney Island. The F train, as we know it, officially began in 1940. The train's running in Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan. And this is our stop. Well, here we are. And I think St. James is down that way. Yep, I can see it from here. Come on. We made it to St. James. Let's take a look at this. Oh, this commemorates when Pope John Paul II made his visit here in 1979. Now, as you know, Pope Benedict made a visit to New York recently. He didn't quite make it to St. James, but maybe next time. Come on, let's go inside. Monsignor, this is beautiful. Oh, so the first thing that catches my eye is this altar. It's splendid.
Well, the whole idea is that the eye of the person entering is focused right to the altar, and so maybe that's a good place to start for our tour.
Oh, that'd be great.
Well, Nick, this structure here goes back to 1853, but actually there was a parish here from 1822. It was the first parish on all of Long Island.
So it's the oldest parish on Long Island.
That's exactly
not
right.
The church.
Not the church. No.
Okay.
There were a couple of other structures before that that were, you might say, temporary, and then just either burnt down or just were.
And the altar itself dates back how long? How new or old?
Oh, that altar. Well, that altar goes back to the renovations that took place after the Second Vatican Council.
Okay.
So sometime in the 70s, but the basic structure of the church itself is 1853. And in 1853, it also became the cathedral, because at that time, the Diocese of Brooklyn was established. So this then was designated as the cathedral. So it's been a very important church for all of Long Island. What we call the baldacchino, these 4 columns with the dome.
With the dome is the baldacchino.
Baldacchino, right. And that was part of the original church. The location of the altar where it is now, that came as a result of the Second Vatican Council. And you'll notice on top of the baldacchino, there's
the
4 words
inscription.
there, yes.
What is that?
In finem delexit eos, he loved them to the very end.
He loved them to the very end.
It's taken from the Gospel according to St. John, and it describes Jesus at the Last Supper, that he loved his disciples to the very end. And that's when he gave them then his body and blood in the sacrament of the Eucharist. And that's what we celebrate there then on that altar. So you'll see that behind the altar there's a chair, and that is where myself or other priests who celebrate Mass here, that's where we would preside from.
Okay.
But to my left here is the chair of the bishop.
The bishop's chair.
See, a cathedral is the bishop's church. It belongs to the bishop in a special way. And in that sense, then, it becomes the mother church for the diocese. Right now, the Diocese of Brooklyn is composed of the counties of Brooklyn and Queens. At one time, it was all of Long Island, including Nassau and Suffolk. But now it's just Brooklyn and Queens.
So is Long Island considered, is this considered Long Island
Yes,
then?
oh yes, downtown Brooklyn, where we are, is the beginning of Long Island.
It's the beginning of Long Island.
Yes, and then it stretches out to Montauk Point.
Okay.
Nassau and Suffolk now are a new diocese, well, not 50 years old, Rockville Center. But here, Brooklyn and Queens are the Diocese of Brooklyn, and the bishop presides here on significant occasions.
So only he sits in that chair?
Only he sits in that chair. In fact, that chair has a technical name from the Latin, cathedra, C-A-T-H-E-D-R-A, which is the root of the word cathedral.
Okay.
And that word means chair. It's the bishop's chair. So when he comes here, he presides from that chair.
From that chair.
Only he can preside.
And he's the only one.
That's right, yeah, as the Bishop of Brooklyn.
And so all of this, the detail and the gilding, and it's a beautiful, the decorative parts of the inside and the dome. Is this all original, or has this been renovated? Is this new?
This was, there were several times when this church has been renovated since the 1970s. And so after Vatican II, there had to be, the altar had to face the people, the altar rail was removed, and then the decoration was done in various stages. So as a result, we have this very beautiful sanctuary here. There are occasions when this church is filled to capacity, standing room only, when the bishop presides here for special occasions. For example, the ordination of priests.
Okay.
Almost all of the priests of the Diocese of Brooklyn were ordained here in this church, going back to the beginning. So it has a lot of, you might say, significance for the diocese. Every major anniversary of some religious order or school, a lot of times they'll celebrate here.
It takes place here?
Yeah, and the bishop will be here, or one of the auxiliary bishops.
Okay.
The bishop has several assistant bishops, and they'll come and they'll celebrate. So there are times when this is quite, you might say, quite joyful in its celebrations.
I'll bet. Well, I'd love to take a look at some of the areas in the side altars,
yes,
if we could.
Sure.
If you could show me those, that'd be great, near the pulpit.
The pulpit is where the gospel is proclaimed from, where the preaching is done. So the bishop frequently will preach from there. Or the priest who's presiding will preach from there. Although sometimes the bishop will choose to preach at his chair, which is a symbol of his teaching responsibility.
Okay.
But ordinarily, priest will preach from here and then return to the altar for the rest of the celebration of the Eucharist.
Now there is I'm not sure what to call this, but there's a pole that I'm looking at with bells.
Oh, yes.
Explain that to me. What is that?
That's called, the technical term is a tintinnabulum.
Tintinnabulum. I knew it wasn't pole with bells. Tintinnabulum.
Yeah,
okay.
and it's a symbol of a basilica. This church was designated a basilica in 1982. The designation of a basilica comes from Rome, and it's on the basis of a particular church being architecturally, historically, and liturgically significant. So of course you see the beauty of the architecture of this structure. Historically, its origins going back to 1822, and liturgically, it's a place where we hope liturgy is conducted appropriately, correctly, properly, and beautifully.
And only Rome can decree that.
Only Rome can decree
to be made to a basilica.
Right, it's a minor basilica.
A minor basilica.
Because the major basilicas are in Rome. So for example, St. Peter's, St. Paul outside the walls, those are major basilicas. This is a minor basilica.
Okay.
There are not too many around the world.
Are the bells themselves, is there a purpose for the bells? Do they ring at a certain time?
No,
is there anything else
it's
that's
more
symbolic
decorative.
about that?
No, it's decorative and symbolic of the particular honor that this church has as a basilica.
Another thing I noticed, Monsignor, is in the stained glass, there's a symbol, or there's an inscription, 1854 to 1904.
Right.
What does that indicate?
Well, this window depicts the Immaculate Conception of Blessed Virgin Mary, and that was defined as a dogma of the church in 1854. And so the parishioners, in order to celebrate the 50th anniversary of it in 1904, had this window made, produced, and installed here. So again, this window, as all the other windows, came from Germany, and early 20th century, and it depicts that very important occasion in the life of the church.
Is that the same date that they were all commissioned?
Yes,
or
all of them. Yeah, they're all for the same
thing.
time. Yeah.
I just noticed that we felt a rumbling. What's happening beneath us?
We're surrounded by subways.
That run underneath the church?
Yes, no, not right underneath the church, but behind us.
Oh, okay.
On Flatbush Avenue, there are subways, and then in front of us on J Street, there are subways also.
So when you're delivering mass, you kind of just roll with
yeah,
that?
you just know that's part of it. Ordinarily, you don't notice it; you get used to it.
Okay.
But when someone is here for the first time, they can hear it.
Can we? I want to take a look at the other side of the
Yes,
altar. There were some things over there
right,
that caught my eye.
You can hear the tingling of the vibrations, when the subways go by.